All right, everyone, welcome back to Midnight Magic Musings, the mothership, if you will. I am one of your hosts on this channel, Lord Cephas. Tonight, I am joined by the Earl of Florida. Earl, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm getting my taxes in to my people.
You know what? Your people love and appreciate you. I am but one of your humble lovers and supporters. So thank you for being here this evening. Got a lot of things we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to kind of rehash, relive, reshoot, if you will, the pilot episode, the lost episode, if you will. We're going to give you a little bit of information on the Earl and on myself, kind of give you an idea of where we're coming from, maybe a little bit more than we have on the channel to this point. That's going to be a bit of our focus tonight. But before we go into that, Kid Duba, who was with us last week, is going to be joining us. Now, last week he had some audio trouble, some technical difficulties. We found a workaround. He is here in studio with me. And so we're going to hand it off to him for just a minute to both he and the Earl. And to my understanding, they're going to discuss Kid Duba's love of the CW series, The Flash. Earl, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Well, we're gonna slide Kid Duba in here in just a second, and he's gonna spend a little bit of time with you, Earl, and then he'll throw it back to me. So we'll see everybody in just a second.
I'm Kid Duba here with Earl of Florida. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's close to my bedtime because I'm getting old. Okay, so you like the Flash from CW, correct?
Yes.
Did you happen to watch the Flash in the Justice League?
No, I have not seen that yet.
Okay, well, I'd be curious to know which one of the Flashes you prefer. So you're gonna have to do that so we can hit you and get you back on here for another Q&A. But okay, so you're a Flash of the CW. Are you interested or are you a follower of any of the other Arrowverse shows? Like Arrow, Legend of Tomorrow, any of them?
I've seen some of the Arrow, and I've seen all of Supergirl so far.
Okay, what about the new Superman and Lois?
I've seen a little bit of it, but not much.
So the Flash is the one that's pretty much grabbed your attention, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, in your opinion, with a lot of the seasons when the main villains ends up being a speedster, which one of the villain speedsters is your favorite and why?
Eobard Thawne.
I like it. Now, why?
He is the main speedster villain. He has he has killed multiple people of the favorites in the show,
Mm-hmm.
and it made it pretty interesting how he came back multiple times throughout the show.
Okay, I can definitely agree with you there. Which actor do you prefer portraying Eobard Thawne? The Tom Cavanaugh or the other one, the one who was supposed to be his original face?
Uh, the Tom one.
Okay. Now, which one of the season villains would you say is your least favorite?
Probably Cicada.
Now, is that because of his powers or
Just how he was in the show. Just the story of him. I did not like
okay?
that.
What about wasn't there a cicada too? I think it was his niece or something.
Yeah, she came from the future.
Now, did she redeem any of the cicada love, or she also fall under no, we can do without cicada?
She she went straight deep and killed him. And she made it more interesting though.
Okay, so definitely a bigger fan of cicada two than cicada one.
Definitely.
All right. What about the other the hero speedsters that have been introduced in the entire series?
Uh, Most of them have been good so far, especially SS.
So that one's been your favorite.
Yes.
What about the old Flash, the OG from uh what's his name? The one who played it back in the '90s, the Flash. I can't remember his name now. I'm thinking about it. The guy who played his father, that also was the Flash from the other
Oh,
Earth.
yeah, from Earth 3.
Mhm. You like him, or is he just a nice little throwback for me and Lord Cephas to go? Hey, we know him.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
All right. Now, which one of not the speedsters, but of all the other different ones that have been introduced, like Killer Frost and Vibe, all the different assisting heroes. Who's your favorite assisting hero?
Probably Frost.
How come?
Because I just like how she's all good and bad at the same time. It was pretty
Okay.
fun seeing her change over time.
You have the two personalities that kind of had to get along.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. I actually remember her. She was on a superhero movie. What was it called? It was the one with Kurt Russell and Kelly Preston. She was in that movie. She had the power to control vegetation, make trees grow, anything plants or things like that. So for me, it was interesting to see her. I was like, hey, I already knew her from that. To switch over there because when they introduced her in season one, I knew who she eventually became. So is there anybody that hasn't been introduced yet in the Flash TV series that you want them to introduce?
Uh, no, except that Doug did from Arrow might be Green Lantern in the
Okay.
future.
Yep. They keep teasing it. And I'm like, you showed them open the little case and there's a green light. I'm like, come on, man, do it already. They're just teasing it. I don't know if they're ever going to give it to us, but hopefully. Uh, so is there anything you want to add about the Flash? Any caveats that you want to throw out there to bring people in, or any extra ones floating around there in the Arrowverse now that the Flash is one of the few remaining Arrowverse shows that you want to see cross back over?
Uh, no, not really. The thing is, except Superman and Supergirl, they haven't been in much episodes when they're in the same Earth now.
Yep. So do you like how they kind of separated them, or do you prefer them all on one same Earth?
I like them all on the same Earth because then you'll see them a little more,
Mm,
and you'll see them in like the news and stuff throughout the episodes.
I hear you. Uh, oh, you also said you finished all of Supergirl.
Yeah.
So were you more of a Supergirl fan than a Superman fan?
Yes, I like Supergirl more in the CW.
Okay. I won't ask why. I'll,
She
I'll, go ahead.
she had a completely different storyline and told more about what happened and how she's older and everything than Superman.
True. I can definitely see that. Now I heard that one of the characters might be crossing over into the Flash would be the Dreamer, I believe.
I have, I don't remember him too much, but I think he was one of the.
I think she was on the Flash, the one who could who had dreams and could see potentially into the future something that might happen off of Supergirl.
Uh, no, I think that was someone from a different dimension that appeared like once or twice.
Okay, I might be getting somebody confused. So in the end, what? How many stars would you give the Flash rating? You give him 4 out
Five.
of 5 stars.
The first three seasons. The other seasons probably a 4.2.
So the the first 3 seasons are your favorite.
Yes.
How do you like the current season so far? Well, it kicks off in what, a month and a half, 2 months?
Yeah, they're not as good, but they're still pretty good.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to throw out there for the Flash?
I hope there's a ninth season and not just eight.
Well, I'm right there with you because I have a lot of catching up to do on the Flash. I have really enjoyed the first few seasons. Savitar was a little bit of a disappointment, but sometimes you get good heroes, you know, then you get someone like, no, they're not heroes. Then you get some villains that are like, oh, they're great villains. They're dastardly, twirl their mustaches and everything. And then you get the ones that are like, we should have brought this guy back. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, but I have to catch up. I think I'm floating somewhere after the Thinker. What did you think of the Thinker?
He was okay, but that season was not my favorite. It was probably the second worst in my opinion.
Yeah, that might have had some influence on my uh being as loyal to the following seasons because what was the Cicada earlier and then the Thinker, and they weren't bad. It was just the first season of Flash, in my opinion, was outstanding. but I was a big fan of Arrow with the Arrowverse. So my loyalty was to Stephen Amell and David Ramsey and all of them over there. So well, I'm glad that you joined with us tonight and got us out there. If there's anything you wanted to say to people who are thinking about watching The Flash but haven't actually started watching it yet, what would you say to them?
You should start watching it because it might surprise you. At least watch the first 2 episodes.
You should catch up in a flash, right? All right. Well, thank you for joining us. If there's anything you want to add, do it now. Throw anything out there. Any people you want them to bring back?
I definitely would think if they brought Eddie Vaughn back, that would be pretty cool.
What was your favorite iteration of him? Do you like the first version the best? Or what was it? The second one, he was the genius, and then the Sherlock was what, Earth 20 something,
That's I
I
said
think.
I said Eddie.
Oh, you said Eddie, the cop. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on Tom Cavanaugh. I love him. He's goofy. Okay, Eddie. Actually, that would be kind of neat to see. Have him come back and then what? Have him written right back into the timeline, or how would you do it? How would you go about reintroducing Eddie?
I would probably introduce him as someone from a different Earth, or was on a different Earth coming onto their Earth.
Okay, I like it, and that would be a nice way to secure the reverse blast in the future. I like it. Well, is there anything else you want to add?
Nope. Is there anything you want to add?
I am good. I'm going to have to go and watch the Flash now. I'm going to have to catch up. I've got about 4 seasons to do. You've got me intrigued again. So thank you very much for joining us. And I guess you have to let Lord Cephas come back.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're gonna have to come back and bring us more. So you're gonna have to go binge watch something and be excited and ready to jump in and throw us your ideas. Yes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to part two of this week's episode of Midnight Magic Musings. Hope you enjoyed Kid Duba sharing his thoughts and feelings on the Flash series on CW. I wasn't invited to discuss anything in the conversation. Had I been, I had things I wanted to contribute, but as you can see, the Earl and Kid Duba did not feel I was appropriate to partake in those level of discussions. We appreciate Kid Duba joining us this week. He's not just a blood family; he is part of the Midnight Magic Musings family, and hopefully, going forward, he can come on and do some guest shots and share with us, as he enjoys getting to do that, and we enjoy getting to do that with him as well. But back to what I was going to say about the Flash before I so rudely interrupted myself. Earl, I will. Yeah, I know. Earl, I will make this argument. Season one of the Flash, to me, is the best written, best acted, best paced superhero television series. It is about as perfect as you can get. I heard Kid Dude talking a little bit about Eddie and what happened at the end of the first season of The Flash and the penultimate episode with Thawne and whatnot. That first season was, for me, was just gold. And one thing I want to point out, because I don't think sometimes Arrow gets the credit it deserves, other than getting to be able to be called the Arrowverse, is The Flash began as a spinoff from an Arrow episode.
Yep.
And the Legends of Tomorrow began as a spinoff of a two-part episode, one being on Arrow, one being on The Flash. Then they were dealing with Vandal Savage at the time. And I won't spoil it, even though it's, 8 years later. You can go back and watch it or whatnot.
Yeah.
9, 10 years, whatever it is now. But really, really good stuff there. And so we've been kind of reconnecting with The Flash over the last couple of evenings, as much as my old body can take it before I have to go to bed because I have to work the next morning. I think we have 2 episodes left to finish up season 7, then we'll go on into season 8, which is what they completed this past season. So a lot of good stuff there, Kid Duba. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Earl, thank you for sharing some of your thoughts and opinions as well. We do appreciate it.
Actually,
Well,
I asked him if you could bring back any character,
mm,
and he said Eddie. And I was like, ooh, that should, because then he even goes, you can pull him from the other Earth that and then that could be the father for the Reverse Flash in the future. And I was like, that would be a very interesting way to do that to secure the story.
Listen to the young people. A little child shall lead them. That's so true. Um, been enjoying that. You know, they kind of wiped the slate clean. They took away several of the CW shows when what Zaslav, I believe is his name, came in and just basically dropped the hammer on everything. With his first thing that he killed was the Wonder Twins movie that got axed like on arrival, and I just want to thank him for that, for saving us from that. But you know, he Supergirl was ending, Black Lightning was ending or canceled, however you want to look at it. Batwoman was taken off the board.
Did they
Um,
cancel the spinoff from Black Lightning? What was a character that was on there, like somebody that couldn't be killed. It was a guy. I don't remember. I never really watched much of Black Lightning. I watched a
they
little bit of it, but
they never actually had a spinoff from it. They started another show called Naomi, which is from the New 52 series. She's basically Superman as a teenager, basically powered. Why she's just as strong, if not stronger.
got
That lasted one season, and the ratings were not significant. So
favorable.
that significant, shall we say? I try to be as nice as possible. So that was taken off the board, as was Legends, who would have been going, I believe, into their seventh or eighth season. They'd been on quite a while, so he kind of wiped the board with it. We're down to just the Flash and Superman and Lois to kind of continue on the Arrowverse. There is just
Painkiller. That
no,
was
they,
the
yeah, they never did anything with that.
okay.
There is a Justice You show that is going to be coming on, where Diggle's basically going to be at a college, I believe is what it's going to be, with a bunch of powered young people. Could be
Huh.
interesting. It is CW, so we know we're going to have some young people angst because, well, it's a holdover from WB, and that's three shows in and of itself, our love for the old WB channel. But that's kind of where it's going right now. Flash is going into season 9.
What,
I
what
kind
about
of get,
Stargirl?
I'm sorry?
What about Stargirl?
Have
Have you
not
heard
heard
anything
any.
about her?
I have not. That would be going into season 3
Yep.
if it were renewed. Um, I kind of get the vibe. No pun intended there. See what I did there? Flash vibes. Okay, see a little Cisco Ramon joke. Oh, come on, it was something. I kind of
It
get the
was
feel.
something.
It was. I kind of get the vibe that this is probably going to be the last season for the
Yeah,
Flash. I mean, 9 seasons. It's outlived Arrow by one season. Arrow went eight seasons. Really, though, if you look at the last season, it was really. And this is Stephen
half a
Amell's
season.
words. Yeah, this is Stephen Amell's words. Please don't take this offensively. A bit of a money grab. You know, to do 10 episodes, they threw a lot of cash at him. And you know what? Who wouldn't say yes? I know if they want to, I'm available and I will take it. I'll do half of what he got and be happy.
Well, they
So
were also trying to set up the backdoor pilot for Green Arrow and the Canaries.
that is correct. Yeah, you had his daughter from the future, his son briefly from the future, Black Canary, and I guess Black
The other Black
Siren.
Canary. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Black Siren. That's right.
which honestly, in my opinion, I absolutely adored Black Siren. I thought she played that role perfectly. But again, just my opinion. So I still think there's some good stuff coming out of CW in terms of superheroes. And look, they tried their best to create their DC TV,
Yeah,
kind of like Marvel does with the MCU. And really, if you really look at it and are
they were
honest about it,
successful.
they were. I mean,
Yeah,
there is no, there, you know, they had an Arrowverse, and I know some people say that as a joke, but in reality, if there was no Arrow as a success, which at the time was sort of their ode to Batman because it couldn't use
yeah,
Batman because of the Nolan trilogy and you know the projects in development,
yep.
it worked and it took off. And so hats off to the CW. I'm sorry to see a lot of their shows go away. Well, maybe not all of them, but I am
Well,
sorry to see shows go away.
well, don't forget, HBO has what are they called? Gotham Knights.
They have that. They've got Painkiller season 2, which is going to be coming out. They're working on a Green Lantern series, which Kid Duba was talking about that with Diggle's character,
Yeah,
which was kind of an Easter egg at the end of the final episode of Arrow.
yep,
And at least to this point, they've not fully resolved what he's going to do. It's revealed on Arrow that his name is John Stewart Diggle.
yep.
So you're like, okay, it makes perfect sense, but We'll see. I do hope they pay it off at some point. Although I will say this, Earl, a little disappointed to hear them say in one of the episodes of Superman and Lois that they're really not Earth Prime.
Yeah.
That because I'm getting older and my mind doesn't remember as well as it used to. That gets to be a little bit confusing. I thought the whole idea was to bring everything under one roof so you could say it's all connected. Remember when Marvel used to say that? Oh, it all matters. It's all connected. And then Agents of Shield came along, and after the second season, I was just like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what? I'm sorry, what? So they've definitely made an effort to kind of condense everything into something that's a little easier to follow. So
Yep.
not sure how that's going to play out. So I'll reserve judgment until I can get a little bit more about it under my belt.
Yep.
Just a couple of things in pop culture, and then we're going to move on to a little bit of a special segment if we can. Um, Stranger Things continues to blow things up. I don't know if you saw the article. The first 20, 30 minutes of its release time on Netflix, they crashed the servers. People couldn't download it, couldn't get onto it. It goes to show that notice when Stranger Things season 4 premiered, that didn't happen. But see, they didn't release the whole season, and they had
No.
primed the pump. People were ready when that thing dropped. So hats off to them. Kudos to them. Kenobi ended. I'm quite sure when the numbers come out, or at least what Disney's willing to release, or what's been estimated, those will be quite well. Miss Marvel just ended. You haven't seen that, so I won't spoil it. Um,
I'm actually curious. And I'm curious enough that I'm about to click it on after this. And it's summer, so my kids are going to be up watching it. But
yes.
so that's why I'm putting it on.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but this may be one of those times after it's over tomorrow. We may have to have like a 5 minute little recap of what you think of how the episode ends. I look forward to talking to you and with you about that. So, a little bit of where we are in terms of pop culture this week. Thor: Love and Thunder crushed the box office this weekend. I did a box office report on that. You can find it here on the channel, it's archived. It certainly had really good numbers. It wasn't Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness numbers, but this was a standalone story.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a reinvention of the Thor character for the 87th time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think that's a bit of an issue as well. I don't mean an issue. I think there's just sometimes there's a feeling with Marvel, do I really need to see it? Um, I think that slows some people up. So we'll see how they do in the second weekend. Because every movie drops in the second weekend. You
Yep.
don't have the repeat business. I mean, Top Gun Maverick is doing awesome, but they're still not at the numbers they started with either. They've just been very
Yeah.
consistent over the last going into 8 weeks now. So we'll see where week 2 comes in. I look forward to seeing that to kind of see what kind of legs this movie has. And we'll have a box office report hopefully on Monday to kind of recap some of that as we go through. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go into segment number 3 here on the Midnight Magic Musings, episode number 5. And this is going to be a special insight, a little bit into who the Earl of Florida is, who the Lord Cephas is. Um, Earl, we're cousins. We're 6 years apart. We grew up together as brothers. Still fight like that. Still love each other like that. So I guess it's a real thing. Let's just talk for a little bit because I want the people at home to know who you are, where you come from, why you're on this channel. Um, so give us a little bit of an idea. What were some of your early, I'm going to guess science fiction has always been a big part of your life. What were some of the early influences of science fiction entertainment for you?
Well, as you know, the first A New Hope came out in '77, which happens to be a year close to Lord Cephas, and Return of the Jedi came out in '83, which is close to the year that was me. So we both grew up with the trilogy out,
Mhm.
and see, I draw comparisons that fantasy and science fiction are very similar
Okay.
because you look at Star Wars. You've got your magicians, your wizards, the Jedi. Then you have your smugglers, your bounty hunters, assassin guild kind of thing that you could have, and then you have the bad guys who also have their magicians. And for me, I've always liked that the little extra something. So I remember running around with sticks going zoom, zoom, zoom. I never cut off my own hand. That came after the prequel series that we realized everybody likes losing hand. They just need the hand up. That's all they needed. But
Did you go pew 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 with the sticks when you? Because that's the sound
probably,
they make. Okay, all right, just checking.
Yeah, but if I was a stormtrooper, I managed to miss every time. I don't know why.
And yet the red shirt would die. We know. Oh, we
Of
know.
course. And going on from that, I know for you, Star Trek: The Next Generation was your jam. It hit at the right time for you, and it hit also was promoting to everybody else a new enterprise, a new crew, a new century, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I preferred DS9 because I was a little bit older for that, and it was a completely different stories, different. It was built differently, like Babylon 5. It's located centrally, but what happened on Deep Space Nine, it was a long storytelling form instead of the
Mhm.
episodic way. And so for me, I got to immerse into that, and then also play with some of the ones that you loved, like Worf, Chief O'Brien,
Mhm.
the former Lieutenant Commander Riker.
If I could pull off the sideburns, I'd do it right now.
But for me, it was fun, and it was something that you were interested in, and
Mhm.
I was interested in, and I remember doing that and watching old school wrestling, WCW, WWF, ordering pizzas late at night,
Yes.
and playing with your GI Joe man that you always broke and blamed on me. I don't know why you would do such a thing. And
You you monster, you monster. You broke my GI Joes. You cracked them in the groin area. I could never figure out how to get the rubber band back. Now, if YouTube were a thing back then, I'm sure I could have fixed them, but you made sure I couldn't. So don't
hey,
think you're
it,
just
it gave them character. When one was missing from the knee joint down, he was wounded. He wasn't KIA. He was wounded, but it gave
so
him character.
so what you're saying is that you were trying to make it a little bit more militaristically correct, where people, suffer severe bodily injuries, mutilations, missing limbs. Was that your goal, or were you just sick in the head?
Allegedly, allegedly, that was my goal. Allegedly,
I'm
and
I'm
as for
I'm fairly certain the statute of limitations is run. I think you're okay at this point.
and as for being sick of the head, that might be one of the voices in there, but not the one I'm using tonight.
Okay, all right.
A lot of skills, but yeah, for me, I always love science fiction fantasy because it let you be a part of something that took you away, put you into a wonderland, so to speak. Imagination, as SpongeBob would call it.
Mhm.
It was just fun, and it was fun because I had somebody that loved the same stuff I did, which is Lord Cephas. And despite his blaming me for his toys, we didn't really fight that much unless we're putting each other in the figure fours on a trampoline or things like that.
I mean, and who doesn't do that as a child?
Exactly. Who doesn't? I distinctly remember. Never mind. I won't go there.
You,
Anywho,
the level of lies that you possess, it's staggering. You should run for political office.
no. But
Okay.
as the years went, we were introduced to new series like Stargate,
Mhm. Yeah.
SG-1. Richard
Yes.
Dean Anderson, hands down, awesome. Michael Shanks,
Mhm.
and it was science fiction with a story. And but that didn't mean we didn't still enjoy Nash Bridges, the
That's
convertible,
true. That's
the
true.
CUDA,
The CUDA, that's right.
the CUDA.
Yes.
But so growing up, I liked the action and the fantasy and the science fiction. But the reason I tuned into these is because they were character driven.
Mhm.
And the original trilogy, George Lucas made sure we were going on this adventure with Luke Skywalker. We were because he hadn't made it out to the big bad galaxy yet. So
Right.
as he was learning stuff, we were learning everything that with him,
Mhm.
which helped us, tie in with him and have more empathetic and sympathetic feelings. And we learned at the same rate he did.
Mhm.
And same thing with Star Trek. What was it, 89 or 87?
For TNG,
Yep.
87.
Okay. Well, I did watch TNG. I enjoyed it, liked it. DS9 just hit when I was ready for it. But
Right.
it was the same thing. It introduced a new set of characters, and you got to love them and watch it not just because, oh, it's Star Trek, but because, your favorite was Geordi LaForge with the visor, or Data was awesome, or Worf was completely awesome unless he's fighting Tasha Yar, who uppercut him once and throw him over the bridge.
Poor Tasha.
But poor Tasha. We don't talk about Tasha. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Yar. But that was one of the reasons I love DS9 was it wasn't just the episodic routine. You got to know these characters. They made an effort to get the fans to connect with them, and that's part of the reason I think they were so successful. And it's just a lot of fun growing up watching these things, and it was more fun because of watching it with you because you love those things.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate you saying that. Love you
yeah,
back. Love you back, kiddo.
I'm checking my PayPal. My money ain't deposited yet, so come on, come
I don't
on.
get I don't get I don't get paid till tomorrow, so don't be waiting up late. You
I
can
can't, I
sleep
can't,
in.
I can't finish the list of things you told me to say until I get that. I'm like,
Don't stay up late, and I'd suggest you sleep in the morning.
but what about
So
you? What do you think about why we're here, why we're doing it, and why did we gravitate towards certain genres?
well, according to my children, I'm extremely old because I was before Google and nothing existed before Google. So, setting me back in that time frame, the earliest shows I can remember watching would have been the original Star Trek series, the
Okay,
TOS, the original series, and that was on PBS, our local PBS station. Aired that. They would air Doctor Who. Now, I love Star Trek, the original series. I'm quite certain I've seen every one of the 68, 69 episodes.
something like that.
When it comes to Doctor Who, I was a little confused as a little boy as to why I should like the Doctor Who. The one they were showing was Tom Baker, who
Yep.
was the one that had the code and had the scarf. And that for whatever reason that just didn't register with me. I know there are many fans of the show, and that's awesome. Enjoy what you like. That didn't resonate with me, but I also watched a show called The Twilight Zone, and it was black and white. And as a kid, you get a little bit, but you don't get it all. I mean, those are the kind of episodes you would need to watch multiple times to get, oh, that's what they were going for. So that kind of impacted me from the fantasy. And of course, Star Wars. I'm old enough to have seen the movie as a CBS. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. The CBS Sunday night movie was Star Wars. It was a big deal that CBS had it. I remember watching it with my mom and my grandma and just loving every second of it. And wouldn't go to you don't get up and go until there's a commercial. And even then, you're not sure. So you got to hurry really fast and do all those things. So, I was a Star Wars fan. At that time, we were very fortunate. At least I was, because you had other shows that were on as well. You had Battlestar Galactica, which did 24 episodes in 78, and then they had Galactica 1980.
No.
You know what? I've made peace. But you also had Buck Rogers in the 24th
Awesome.
century, and I love the heck out of that show. I wanted to pilot one of their starfighters so badly because I liked the look of them. I just enjoyed it. As a little boy, I also liked Colonel Deering. I just couldn't figure out why. I just thought she's really nice. But that kind of stuff will, oh, careful there, will forever be with me. Those are the kind of things that influenced me. And then we get into The Empire Strikes Back, which nearly ruined my childhood because the movie ended on a cliffhanger, and I had not seen a movie end on a cliffhanger. I
We
didn't even know
talked.
what I didn't know what a cliffhanger was. I just know the movie's over and Han Solo is frozen, and Luke's missing a hand, as you like to reference, and
Well,
a really cool Lando Calrissian guy who might be a bad guy, but he's a really good pilot too, and he might have saved him. So I'm not sure how to feel about all of that. And they're staring out a window, looking into the cosmos as the Rebel Alliance is kind of getting together for what they're going to do
design.
next, and that's it. I'm like, what? As a kid, you can't process that.
Well, even as adult, because we touched on this before, all the cliffhangers that we get these days
Yep.
are because they've usually filmed the two together,
Yes.
or they have things like that. Back then in the 70, what was it, 80, 79,
So
81,
you'd had 77 would have been Star Wars, 81 or 80 would have been
80.
Empire, and then 83 was Return.
So in 1980, that wasn't done back then
Nope.
by anybody, and there was also wasn't the craze for sequels as it is now or remakes.
Sure.
But what he did, like you said, was unheard of. Nobody did that,
Hmm.
but he did.
He did,
And
and you know what? The people showed up for in '83 because I was 6 at the time, and my mama took me. My grandmother raised me. I call her mama. She took me to our little theater in our little town, and I remember sitting in there, and I still to this day I can remember seeing it on the big screen. And when you're 6, it's all real to you. Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's not real, but in your heart of hearts, you believe.
oh, it's real.
And I'm seeing Jabba's palace, and I'm blown away by this. And then they make their way out to the nesting place of the all-powerful Sarlacc. I was not prepared. And no, not the 1997 quote
Not
unquote
the clown
improvements
tail.
budget. No, 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 no. I'm talking about the original one. Dude, I loved that. And then they get off the planet and they go to Dagobah and he sees Yoda and Yoda passes away. That hurt my heart as a kid because I like him. Why did he die? Because yes, the progression of the story, and then eventually, they end up on Endor, and they meet the Ewoks. And I know everybody's got their own camp. As a 6-year-old, I loved it, and in my 40s now, I'm not going to change my opinion. I love it, and I'm happy. So if you don't like it, that's okay. You be happy too. But seeing the Death Star get attacked on the big screen, we take so much for granted now because we can stream everything. There was
Yep.
something magical to going to the theater, smelling the popcorn, only having 3 or 4 choices for a soda, and only a handful of things you can buy to eat unless you don't tell anybody you snuck it in. Your mama snuck it in your purse. I know. You used to get very upset about those things. And that just empowered me. And I took those stories because, we had the Star Wars figures, the G.I. Joe figures. I won't even get into Transformers and G.I. Joe because that's 3 shows to itself. But I played those adventures when I was a little boy, and I added to them, and I made up scenarios and things because when you live by yourself out in the country, those people can become like your friends. They're the
Yep.
people that you know. So that kind of stuff, and then we morphed from that into Star Trek: The Next Generation, which admittedly season number 1 was very rough. Most shows are in season 1.
Yeah.
Very few just crush it from the beginning. They struggled to find their footing. Really, I would say it was season 3, probably about the time of Best of Both Worlds was the season finale of season 3 because they didn't know they were going to be renewed. So like, you know what? We're just going to do this, and whatever happens, happens. They did not know at the time they filmed it they were renewed, and so
Yeah.
oh crap, now we have been renewed. That's why it's a little disjointed in the second episode or the first episode of season 4. I mean,
Yeah.
it works, but if you really watch it, you're like, oh, it's a little
Hmm.
bit disjointed, but it's because they didn't know. So
Yeah.
now they had to walk some of that back. There was talk at the time of killing Picard and promoting Riker or writing Picard out of the series till the end of season 4 and then promoting Riker to captain. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with Roddenberry and the different writers. So that really
That would have
kicked,
been interesting.
what it would have been. That's fan fiction I think that people would probably enjoy as well. But that
Yeah.
kicked it into gear. And really from there on, I mean, they had a few, let me just say dog episodes, but
But every series does.
they do. But you get into season 6 and season 7 of TNG, and man, that was my love right there. Every Tuesday night, which is where it aired on our local affiliate at 10 o'clock at night, you could see that. DS9 comes along. I like DS9 because first episode they have the Enterprise on it, so of course I'm going to watch it, right? And you have Chief O'Brien, who you knew enough from Next Generation, know I liked him. Of course, Worf doesn't come on until I believe season 4 with
Season
Way of the
4.
War. Yeah, Way of the Warrior was that first episode, which that's a really good episode. I mean, where you have that Sacrifice of Angels. There's so many great episodes in Deep Space Nine that we just know by the title. I don't want to disrespect TNG, but there's an episode called Lower Decks, and it's not the cartoon on Paramount. You should go back and check that. I actually watched that the other day. But I had all those things. We talked about SG-1. Of course, there was Atlantis, which I liked as well.
Definitely.
Stargate Universe. I think I'd kind of really cooled to at that point to the Stargate franchise. But you had Farscape, you had Andromeda, Earth Final Conflict. I mean, there
Hmm.
was a lot of forgotten sci-fi stuff that was really good. Um, they tried to show in 1997 a personal favorite of mine. You might say it was one of the early entries into the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe as a whole. It was called Nightman, and it was from Malibu Comics, which Marvel actually purchased. He was
Yep.
part of the Ultraverse, and they actually introduced that concept into season 2. Season 1, it was cheesy. but I enjoyed it for what it
Yep.
was. I love the theme. I love the car. I enjoyed it because it's superhero stuff. Season
And
two, I still stuck around for it because I was invested. Unfortunately, I didn't make it out of the second season, but a, a lot of that stuff. And you know what? In the '80s, growing up as children of the '80s, think about how many movies we saw of Canon films. Now, if you're not familiar with Canon films, boys and girls, go Google it. There are some classics in there, such as Missing in Action with Chuck Norris, Missing in Action 2,
I like
Missing.
number two. I think the best.
You had Hero and the Terror. That was a classic.
Another
Um,
Chuck Norris film.
yeah, they were really a vehicle for Chuck Norris. You had
Mhm.
what was it? The Delta Force, the
Yep, with
original, and
Lee
then
Majors.
Lee Marvin.
Marvin, I'm sorry.
Yep, you had him, and that was. Now listen, I fully admit to you, some of the movies and their themes and stereotypes would be offensive today. Absolutely no question. But those are the kind of movies you grew up on. America First, and and all these action explosions. Look, we lived through First Blood, and then Rambo: First Blood Part Two. That kind of made us who we were as, I
Yep.
guess, movie and entertainment fans. It's what we gravitated towards. My mom, God bless her, she loved cop movies, and I've seen just about every variation of a cop movie you have: an A-list movie, a B-list movie, and some that were just lucky to make it to VHS, not DVD, to VHS, and we still can't understand in some cases why. Which
Yep.
does which doesn't even touch on one movie, and then I'll shut up because I could go on forever. There is a movie that aired on ABC as the Sunday night movie of the week, and you'll remember this. It was a movie called I believe it was Alligator, about a very big mutated alligator.
Yep.
There was also Alligator
In the
2.
sewer.
Yes, there was also Alligator 2, the mutation, but we're
Which
gonna
one was it where the gator blew up a not blew up but crashed a wedding?
number one.
And then I think memory serves wasn't what was playing as it was death brawling and everything. It's my party and I cry if I want to. I'm almost positive that was playing as he was crashing the wedding.
That I cannot specify too. I just remember as a kid being terrified because there's this big alligator. Now, if you go back and watch it now, you look at it and go, "Gosh, I was little," because I really appreciated that. But that's a little bit about who I am. I did see a few other scary movies that my mama didn't know I saw back in the day, a few Nightmare on Elm Streets and such, which terrified me as a kid because I was raised very sheltered. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm very happy with who I am and what I did. But that's a little bit about, kind of what informs my fandom. So this is long before Marvel had a movie franchise. We had Superman
Yep.
and Superman 2, even Superman 3,
Yeah.
Superman 4. Well, you know,
Nuclear Man.
and listen, yes, I
As
am
a
a
kid, it
fan.
was cool. As a
Yeah,
kid, because I distinctly remember going, "That's awesome." The radioactive claws coming out. Like that's cool.
well, if you think about it, Superman was living proof that you could make a superhero movie that functioning adults would go and watch. It wasn't just for kids. I mean, that the Richard Donner film to me still is amazing. The soundtrack is
Yep.
absolutely wonderful. And so we saw glimpses of what could be done. We also saw things like Captain America. Uh,
I watched that somewhat recently, and it's not as
yeah,
bad as I remember. That might be. I appreciate some more cheesiness. It was fun. It was ridiculous. It was fun. It was, like you said, a B or C movie,
maybe.
maybe.
Ronnie Cox was in it. That's the only redeeming quality of it. They had a Captain America too, and for years there was the unseen Fantastic Four movie that Roger Corman had did. It's on the internet. You can see it now. But for a lot of years, it was hidden away. Nobody would show it. Tape traders would get a hold of it. It was a big item. Now it's not the way it was. But
Well,
all
another one. I think it was 1990. Dolph Lundgren dyed his hair black.
That's right. It was the Punisher movie where they couldn't have apparently the
Oh,
Punisher logo on the
yep.
shirt. So sort of Marvel-esque, just without the tie-in. I still think that was
Yeah,
a good movie, though. It was Dolph
I
Lundgren, Louis
liked it.
Gossett Jr. Yep.
Yep.
Hey, look, for those of you who are a little bit older like us, you'll remember there was a He-Man cartoon series. There's also a live-action
Of course.
adaptation. Maybe one day we'll cover the reasons why that movie Well, it was the way it was. That's a story in and of itself. We'll talk
But
about one day.
you mentioned a couple of weeks ago that you remember the first movie that had the after credit scene. It was this, right?
It was actually a movie. I want to say it was. I forget the name of it. I was in the '60s.
Oh,
It actually had an after movie credit.
huh.
So Marvel didn't come up with the idea. They've just kind of made it to where everybody sits through the credits now, waiting for a post credit scene. If there's not one, and I've been in theaters where there wouldn't be one, and people are like irritated that there's not because we've been trained now
Yep.
um, to expect that. But that's a little bit about me, and yes, huge wrestling fan for all of those years as well. So I'm definitely there with that. But kind of gives everybody a little bit of idea of why we're weird and why we like
Yeah.
certain things, and maybe some things aren't our jam, as I'm sure the kids are still saying.
I know those kids that say that.
You sure? Are you sure?
What?
Are you
What?
sure? I still
It's an
say
old
it. I still
bro.
say it. It must be true.
Not a kid.
My wife makes jam, therefore I feel like I'm entitled to use the word jam, and she does, and it's very good. So that's a little
Well,
bit about it. Go
well,
ahead. I'm sorry.
we'll allow it then.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Lady Cephas approves of that message. Um, it's a little bit about who we are and kind of what's kind of carried us in our ideas of what's quality entertainment. And you and I both agree there's some things I like you don't like, and vice versa. And
Hmm.
there's some things that we've just never tried because I just didn't feel like it interested me. Some things that you've watched and dropped off on, then some things I've kept on going, and vice versa. So that's kind of made us who we are as fans today. I'll be honest
And
with you. I try to avoid the negativity online, especially from the fan bases, or I like that, I don't. I have no problem with legitimate criticism, and we'll do that here on this show. What
yeah,
you
because
won't.
you'll
Go
like
ahead.
something and I won't, but I'm not going to bash you for liking it. I'm just trying to find out why,
Hmm.
and then vice versa.
Yeah.
Because you know, I still don't understand how Angry Birds made it to your top 10 video game list. I still don't know.
Have you ever played it?
Oh, I played it. I played Angry Birds 2 and then the Star Wars Angry Birds
Have you played the version that's like a tabletop where you actually have to fire the birds?
for one of the Munchkins, the slingshot and the thing
Yes.
with the personalized birdies. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Well, if you've done all that and don't like it, I don't know if we can be family or friends anymore because that's awesome. And we don't mind calling something out or being like, dude, that's weird, but right on.
Yeah.
But there are times we'll legitimately criticize something if we're like, you know what, we can't, and it's not ignoring issues. It's just we want to be a channel of positivity. We're not going to stick our heads in the sand and pretend everything's great. But if you came here to hear us rip things apart, we're probably not the channel for you because we've made a commitment to ourselves first, much less to each other, that we're not going to hate watch stuff. If I don't like it, I'm not going to go back to it and make myself suffer. I'm too old. And you know what? I want as many years of my life left, and I want to enjoy those years. So I'm not going to
Watch
torture
something new.
myself. Yeah, torture myself unnecessarily.
That's my
But
job.
oh, you're saying heck of a job you do. So that's who we are. Just a little bit more about it. We didn't get to share that in our initial episode because of a recording issue. But now that you've heard about us, that's great. Um, Let me ask you this. Tell the people a little bit about you do something very special that I wish I could do, but I don't. You are actually a published author. Tell the people a little bit about how that happened, what you published. Give them a little bit of a background, the Earl as a literary giant.
I'm a baby. I ain't a giant yet.
Okay, I was throwing it out there.
Well, that's where it started. And I distinctly remember when I was 12 years old, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to be an author. And I started writing in this little spiral notepad, which I still have to this day, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I look at it and go, I was awesome. I don't know what happened to me. No, but
We all do that.
yeah, we do that. But it was something I've always wanted to do because I enjoyed being immersed in stories and awesome characters, and I just wanted to turn my imagination and daydreams into something tangible, and be like, oh, this is awesome. But life finds a way, and when you hit the adulthood age, you have responsibilities, and so that was one of the things that was put on the back burner. And in order to feed my craze, I used to go onto their like Star Wars websites It's called post by play, where you can write out what your character does, and then the next writer does their character, and back and forth. So
Mhm.
you're writing, it's in like a dance with the other writer,
Okay.
and that helped to hone my writing ability, and also kept me hungry for that one day I'm going to write a book. One day I'm going to write a book. So I, as you can tell, I've gotten a little bit past just becoming the adulting age,
A little bit,
and
yeah.
I got the opportunity to uh, help with a online magazine, and and it was I think it was pretty close to the beginning of COVID, I believe, that I got that opportunity. So working with them and doing a few stories and a few articles for them opened the door for me to have an opportunity to write a book.
Mm.
And I got the chance to write in the book. Had to be written in 30 days. And so, as you mentioned earlier, what voice is the crazy one? Uh, Even though I never wrote anything, it
Mhm.
all is still up here. I still remember that when I was 12 years old, I remember that storyline that I was writing. And actually, I'm probably going to end up doing that maybe 2 books from now, just because that's something that, one of my first stories and it still resonates inside me. So, anyway, back to the book that first got published. It's called Aegis, Aegis. It's the, the, the word is kind of like a shield. It was I think it was Athena's shield in Greek mythology, but it's a shield. So, I was like, what do I love right now? What's pumping through my veins? What's got me going? Yeah, I got to do this. Got to see this. Got to watch this. And so it's a superhero book. It starts off when a few of them are younger, teens, and it follows these characters. The main character specifically for an arc of about 35, 40 years, and it shows you like snippets of when he was high school, then when he was on the way to being trained to be a superhero, and then like his first mission, and then when he started to get a little disenfranchised and jaded about what superheroes really do,
Mhm.
and what they can't do because they operate for the government. And so when went kind of vigilante for a little bit, and I think the reason I love this book writing was I didn't write it as a superhero book first. I wrote it as this is just a regular dude,
Mhm.
and trying to put in how would you feel if you had friends and teammates die in front of you? You would be affected, scarred, so to speak, emotionally, and they carry these things, and it's very rare that you see the superhero fall or crumble or brought down by the weight of morality that he's been kind of crossed the line over and over with. And so I just wanted to make him believable, and I think I did. I've had feedback that said they loved it, that he's a great character, so that's always nice. But yeah, that's out. Amazon. You can go to Barnes and Noble. Pretty much anywhere you can order a book. It's got its ISBN number, so all you gotta do is look it up and find RL Aaron's, and there that one is.
Sure.
And my second book is actually, it, hopefully, it'll be coming out this summer, the end of the summer. It's a kind of like a supernatural horror thriller mystery kind of. Yes,
Mm.
I just picked a whole lot in there.
Mm.
And I was asked, how do you go from writing a science fiction book to writing something like that? And I blame you. I mean, it was what we were watching, because Empire Strikes Back. It was fantasy and everything, but there was also a tinged with horror when he found out that the guy who just cut his hand off was
Mhm.
his daddy. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. Or in Star Trek, your Star Trek Next Generation, we saw the Borg, and remember what was it? The cutest of Borg?
Cutest of Borg, yes.
That was kind of that was scary. Your beloved captain is now a villain, the villain.
Mhm.
And then I have to. blame James Cameron some because when Aliens came out, I loved the Aliens movie. They were the colonial marines, and they changed the formula from the first Alien movie, but it was action, but there was also a bit of horror and jump scares.
Right.
And so from everything I exposed myself to, to liking, to being drugged to and watching, I think is given me a somewhat uh, eclectic uh, writing genres
Mm-hmm.
because I've done science fiction, I've done short story westerns, and a few other things like that. But I think George R. R. Martin said it best when they asked him, "How does he write female characters so well?" He said, "I just treat them like they're human." So for me, I have to try to figure out who these people are, and
Right.
then they start talking in my ear, and that's a short version. You don't want to hear the long version. That was too long for the short version. But no, my writing style ability is shaped by the things I love to watch and the things that we sat there and watched together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a great ride.
So
And I'm
you kind
definitely
of
looking.
come at it a little bit different than maybe some people who consider themselves to be a tortured soul and have to get this out. You're actually coming at it, and don't let me put words in your mouth, from a perspective of, hey, I like this. I want to give out a good product, and I want to be successful too and make money because that's how you pay your bills. But your perspective seems to be one of, hey, I want to give back a little bit to what's been given to me through the
Yeah,
years. Am I reading too much into that, or is that
no,
pretty?
that's completely accurate. And one of the reasons I love writing is because it's fun, and I want to know what the story's going to be.
Mhm.
So as I'm writing, whether it was play by post or anything like that, or articles or short stories or book, I don't know what's going to happen. I let the character react, and then I just follow along and write what happens.
Mhm.
So it's a different way of doing it. Actually, Stephen King says he does a similar thing. He has a start point, a few spots in the middle, and then the ending. Then he
Mhm.
just lets the characters do whatever they're going to do. And so I do that for the most part. But for anybody out there who's wanting to write at all, the hardest part is to actually write. You have to sit down and you have to make yourself write, even if it has nothing pertaining to anything. If you don't get into the habit, it'll be next week, next month, next year, 2 decades for me. But it's fun being able to create things that you enjoy. Because if you're not having fun, what's the point of writing it? If
Right.
you're not enjoying it, what's the point? So I write things that I would like because if there's enough people weird enough like me that if I like it, they'll like it. At least that's the goal.
So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to kind of bolster what you said. I am not a writer like the Earl is. He's published. I have far too many other things that get in the way of me ever being able to accomplish something like that. But there's a film critic by the name of Chris Gore. He was on FX years ago when FX was kind of having movie shows, and
Yeah.
he's also he went to Wayne State University, which is a bit of a commuter school, and they didn't have the books in his film classes that they use at, let's say, USC, which is where George Lucas went. So he went and bought all the books that they used in those classes at USC, brought them back and said, listen, if we can't afford to go to USC because University of Southern California is actually a private school, at least we can use the books they have. That, he says, that kind of informed him. And he actually wrote a book, and he said all he did, and this is not to minimize, please don't misunderstand me. He sat down for 60 days, wrote 500 words per day.
Yep.
That's all he did. And then at the end of it, you've got all these words written, and then of course you got to edit it and do. Gosh, I can't even imagine what you went through with that. But for him, that was sort of the bite-sized portion way of doing it. And I've heard you say this, and you said it again tonight. If you have a desire to do it, do it. Follow your heart and your passion. Try it. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody doesn't like it. Well, you know what? It's we're all human, and some like it, some people like it, some don't. That's fine. But at least you can say you did it. You can get that off of
Yep.
yourself. So, I'm proud of you and your success there. And you did say it is still available on Amazon.
Yep.
Aegis, that's
You
correct.
can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Macro Microcosm online. You can find it through Barnes Noble. Pretty much any bookstore you can go in. If they don't have it, you can order it.
Sure.
Uh, but if you do enjoy the kind of writing I do, check out the Macro Microcosm online. We have articles, short stories, things thrown up there relatively quickly throughout the week. But they also have a quarterly magazine that
Okay.
uh, they deal with some tougher subjects sometimes, but they also try to keep it light and it's fun. So
Sure.
you can get that the digital version or the print. So it's nice when you're able to find people that are like you
Hmm.
and can support you because that's part of the thing. Whatever, no matter what you're doing, it's always nice to have somebody supporting you.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's in your walk of life.
Sure. Sure. And you, as you said, you've got a couple of books in the pipeline to
Yep.
come out this year as well. So, hey, man, again, congratulations. We're looking forward to seeing more of it. We hope to, over the next couple of weeks, have some additional authors come visit with us and
Yep.
just share a little bit about that, get a little bit of cross synergy going on there. I know you have been a reader your entire life, and that's been an important part of your identity. So,
Yep.
and by the way, folks, I happen to know for a fact he's read the Star Wars books, and though I used to be able to say they were in canon, now they're just legend stories, right? Legendary stories. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do one night where we just rant about how disappointing it is we spent all that money and they're just legend stories now, and the video games don't count. And although they're slowly working a few things in, like Grand Admiral Thrawn. Um, I'm still waiting
It'll
to see
be
the. I need to see the Yuuzhan Vong in live action, but you know what? I'll take what I can get. So that's my shout out to Timothy Zahn and Heir to the Empire, the trilogy that as a teenager excited me because I didn't think I'd get any more Star Wars after the first three movies. Little did I know there would be a
same
prequel
book.
trilogy. Yep, there'd be a prequel trilogy coming. What in 97,
No,
98?
it was earlier than I thought it was 91.
No, Heir to the Empire came out then. I'm talking about
Yeah.
when did the prequel series begin? Was it 97?
99, 2002, and 2005.
Go back and look in 97 when they released the updated versions of Star Wars Empire and Return, and you will see those movies still did well. Those movies, those releases beat some of the new movies
Yeah.
that were coming. It's just the most amazing thing that here we are 40, 50 years later now, and it still holds that. Now, I think at a certain point every franchise is going to lose some steam
Yeah.
over time. It's just bound to happen. Fans age out. You've got to replace them.
You have to be
Um, I,
relevant to the new ones.
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to be Marvel's big issue: is can they keep people engaged as they start to come out of Phase 4, go into Phase 5? Will that appeal to people? It's very hard when you're on a winning streak. You know what? It's hard to maintain it. It
Yep.
just is. And so I wish them well because I'm a fan, but we're going to see how that works. No one has done what these two franchises have done and
Yep.
kept a story going that long with that many iterations of it. So people can say, "Oh, well, it's got to end at some point." Well, they're almost 30 movies in Marvel plus what 5 series with She-Hulk
Yeah.
getting ready to drop next week or not next
That's
week, rather
without
next month.
counting. That's without counting the Netflix ones that they brought back
Cor-
over to Disney Plus.
Yep, great point. And even the Daredevil, they're going to reboot, and there's still others to come as well.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
But we grew up in a time where we read comic books, we got picked on, and such as now is we weren't cool to be nerds. We were just nerds. So we didn't have all that. So we just wanted to share a little bit about who we are, what we do, what some of our interests are, in addition to the pop culture stuff that we typically talk about. So
Yep.
that's kind of where we wanted to come from. Now, we still have some things we're going to try and do this weekend. We're going to have a box office report. We're probably going to have one or two shorts over the weekend as we're able to record them. Still trying to get a football show recorded. So much to say and not enough time. I can't do a 5 hour podcast because nobody would listen to it. Once they realize how long it was, like 30 seconds in, everybody's clicking out. But do us a favor as we're winding down here. Go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. It really does help us with YouTube algorithm. This is something we do for love and fun because the kind of conversations we have here are literally the kind of conversations we have at midnight when we're talking on the phone when my wife's gone to bed and she doesn't have to hear my nerdisms come out and spill on her. So yeah, do that if you would. We do appreciate that. We appreciate everyone's support, the views and such that we're getting.
And if
We
you want, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. Let
absolutely.
us know if there's something that you want us to talk about in a future
Mhm.
session. I mean, we're gonna listen. So
And next weekend, dude, it's San Diego Comic Con. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out of it. So next week we might just preview a little bit of, maybe give some predictions of what we expect, and hopefully over the weekend, next weekend, we'll be able to drop a few reaction things. I am a huge fan of The Walking Dead. We're going into 11C. You know, they split the final season into three parts. I'm very excited to see what they say. They have an hour panel for The Walking Dead and then an hour panel sort of for Tales of the Walking Dead, which is another entry into the universe. So basically, they're standalone stories with characters that we may have met, or just brand new characters, brand new one-off stories as well. So I think that's going to be very interesting. They've really worked hard to kind of reinvigorate the franchise and get as much life out of it as they can.
Out of
Um,
the dead things.
I realize what I just said there. You're right. So, Walking Dead's coming to an end. Fear is entering its eighth season. Fear the Walking Dead. I think that's probably going to be its last. They have a Daryl spinoff coming where he's going to Europe. I have a lot of thoughts on why he would even go to Europe and leave people behind. I've got a few maybe we'll talk about next week. And then the Tales is going to be very cool as well. And I think they'll probably do a few more of those webisode series that they've done as well. The one with the submarine I thought was fantastic. I won't spoil it, but it's
Actually,
not
I didn't even know about that until I saw it online. I was like, "What? Nick Stahl? What is he doing there?"
fantastic job. It's only like 45 minutes if you add up all the episodes together. So, you know, go watch a 3 or 5 minute episode and there's like 7 or 8 of them. So go do that if you get the chance. Um, Other than that, that's all I have for this week. Earl, do you have anything else you want to share with the peeps?
Nope, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, for the Earl of Florida, for Kid Duba, who joined us earlier with his thoughts on CW and The Flash, we'll probably hear a little bit more from him next week as we go along as well. I am Lord Cephas. I want to thank you for joining us today or tonight or whenever you're hearing and viewing this. We do appreciate your support. Take care, everyone. Be good to each other. We will see you all next week. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.